Good afternoon, everyone. The time for convening has arrived. The Senate will come to order. At this time, I will call on the good senator from the 6th to give us a report on our journal today.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. You did a fine job down there at the budget signing. Very proud of you. Proud to know you. Might get your autograph later. Mr. President, we got a great long list of pages here today, so I'm just going to get rolling on it. Out of Decatur, we got Mallory Adams. From Fayetteville, we have a Logan Burr. From Carnesville, Grayson Carson. From Dunwoody, Yospin Castillo Morales. From Woodstock, Lillian Cody. From Perry, Chloe Cross. From Conyers, Brian Ford. From Washington, Jackson Godwin. From Alpharetta, Sarah Greenbaum. From Athens, Harrison Hopkins. From Decatur, John Iredale and his brother, William Iredale. From Perry, Caleb Jackson. From Atlanta, Mo Kogan. From Eastman, Nathan Lancaster. From Alpharetta, Peyton Lee. From Atlanta, Kyler Lewis. From Iron City, Megan Mathis. From Atlanta, Evelyn McCaskill. From Lumber City, Kyla McClure. From Hampton, Tavion McElrath Bay. From Richmond Hill, Jade Monsanto. From Marietta, Daniel Knorr. From Milledgeville, Sidney Pope. From Alamo, Jadaria Randolph. From Atlanta, Rose Silver. From Woodstock, we have Brad Vaughn's little daughter, Victoria Vaughn. And from Noonan, we have our former Capitol Police Chief, Jim Wicker's daughter, Anna Wicker, my constituent. Y'all give these pages a big round of applause. We appreciate y'all being here to serve the great people of the great state of Georgia. Mr. President, I have spent the morning going through the journal. It's been read and found to be correct. I move we dispense with the reading of the journal.
All right. Thank you, Senator, and thank you to all our pages here today. I know we have some folks from all over, and I think we have a very special page, and one of, I believe, our chief of staff here, Brad Vaughn's daughter, is here. Miss Tori Vaughn here is here. So so we're glad to have all our pages, and we encourage everybody who has a son or daughter to let them come down here and page for a day, like our chief has done. So, all right. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. It is first time for first reading and references to Senate bills. Secretary, read the captions.
Senate Bill 608 by Senators Goodman of the 8th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 53 of the Official Code of Georgia. Senate Bill 609 by Senators Jackson of the 41st and others, a bill to
State and local government.
Senate Bill 610 by Senators Jackson of the 41st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 611 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others, a bill to be
entitled State and local government general.
Senate Bill 612 by Senator Walker III of the 20th.
State and local government.
Senate Resolution 879 by Senators Orrock of the 36th and others, a resolution honoring the life and legacy of David Hayward and recognizing his enduring contributions. Senate Resolution 882 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a resolution urging the
Economic Development.
Senate Resolution 887 by Senator Bearden of the 30th, a resolution recognizing Dr.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 888 by Senators Brass of the 6th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Parent Accountability for Student Success.
Education and Youth.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
First reading references the House bills.
House Bill 1075 by Representatives Chastain of the 7th and others, a bill to be entitled...
Judiciary.
House Bill 1097 by Representatives Petrie of the 166th and others, a bill
Health
to be
and Human
entitled...
Services.
House Bill 1107 by Representatives Rice of the 139th and others, a bill to be...
Education.
House Bill 1131 by Representatives Hong of the 103rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend...
Judiciary.
House Bill 1164 by Representatives Wade of the 9th and others, a bill to be entitled...
Education and Youth.
House Bill 1262 by Representatives Lumsden of the 12th and others...
Insurance and Labor.
House Bill 1263 by Representatives Lumsden of the 12th and others...
Insurance and Labor.
House Bill 1274 by Representatives Reeves of the 99th
Insurance and Labor.
House Bill 1278 by Representatives Hawkins of the 27th and others...
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1344 by Representatives Reeves of the 99th and others...
Insurance and Labor.
House Bill 1357 by Representatives Franklin of the
State
100...
and local government.
House Bill 1358 by Representatives LaHood of the 165th...
State and local government.
House Bill 1359 by Representatives LaHood of the 175th and others, a bill...
State and local government.
House Bill 1375 by Representatives Hawkins of the 27th...
State and local government.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary Reed reports the standing committee.
Mr. President, the Committee on Assignments has had under consideration the appointments made by the Governor, which require Senate confirmation and were submitted to the Senate on February 2nd, 2026 and February 24th, 2026. The Committee has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that the appointments be confirmed as submitted. Respectfully submitted, the Honorable Burt Jones, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: Senate Bill 589, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 445, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman of the 4th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Ethics has had under consideration the following legislation as instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: Senate Bill 573, do pass. Senate Resolution 838, do pass. Senate Bill 423, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 568, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 11th District, Chairman. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 423, which passed out of the Senate Committee on Ethics on March 2nd, 2026. Sincerely, the Honorable Harold Jones II of the 22nd District. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 568, which passed out of the Senate Committee on Ethics on March 2nd, 2026. Sincerely, Minority Leader Harold Jones II of the 22nd District. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 573, which passed out of the Senate Committee on Ethics on March 2nd, 2026. Sincerely, Minority Leader Jones II of the 22nd District. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Resolution 838, which passed out of the Senate Committee on Ethics on March 2nd, 2026. Sincerely, Minority Leader Jones II of the 22nd District. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: Senate Bill 410, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 515, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 566, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 576, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstadler of the 52nd District, Chairman. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 410, which passed out of the Senate Committee on Finance on March 2nd, 2026. Sincerely, Senator Orrock of the 36th District. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: Senate Bill 556, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burns of the 23rd District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: Senate Bill 324, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Special Committee on Investigations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: Senate Bill 604, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 605, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 606, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 607, do pass by substitute. Senate Resolution 875, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Calzert of the 46th District, Chairman. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 604, which passed out of the Senate Special Committee on Investigations on March 3rd, 2026. Sincerely, Minority Leader Jones II of the 22nd District. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 605, which passed out of the Senate Special Committee on Investigations on March 3rd, 2026. Sincerely, Senator Jones II of the 22nd District, Chairman. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 607, which passed out of the Senate Special Committee on Investigations on March 3rd, 2026. Sincerely, Senator Jones II of the 22nd District. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration the following legislation as instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 488, do pass. Senate Bill 418, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 499, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 572, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 42nd District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration the following legislation as instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 532, do pass. Senate Bill 592, do pass. Senate Bill 591, do pass. Senate Bill 547, do pass. Senate Bill 594, do pass. Senate Resolution 262, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 42nd District, Chairman. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 572, which passed out of the Senate Committee on Judiciary on February 26, 2026. Sincerely, Senator Jones II of the 22nd District. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 591, which passed out of the Senate Committee on Judiciary on March 2, 2026. Sincerely, Senator Jones II of the 22nd District. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 592, which passed out of the Senate Committee on Judiciary on March 2, 2026. Sincerely, Senator Jones II of the 22nd District. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety has had under consideration the following legislation as instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 442, do pass by committee substitute. Senate Bill 586, do pass. Senate Bill 570, do pass by committee substitute. Senate Bill 587, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District, Chairman. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 442, which passed out of the Senate Committee on Public Safety on March 2, 2026. Sincerely, Senator Jones II of the 22nd District. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities has had under consideration the following legislation as instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 367, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowsert of the 46th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities has had under consideration the following legislation as instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 553, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowsert of the 46th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Retirement has had under consideration the following legislation as instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 209, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Williams of the 25th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations has had under consideration the following legislation as instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 457, do pass. Senate Bill 543, do pass. Senate Bill 544, do pass. Senate Bill 545, do pass. Senate Bill 560, do pass. Senate Bill 567, do pass. Senate Bill 574, do pass. Senate Bill 575, do pass. House Bill 1120, do pass. House Bill 1213, do pass. House Bill 1297, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations General has had under consideration the following legislation as instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 510, do pass. Senate Bill 593, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security has had under consideration the following legislation as instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 190, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 299, do pass by do pass. Senate Bill 555, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th District, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary, read bills for the second time.
Senate Bill 278 by Senators Harrell of the 40th and others. Standards, labeling, and adulteration of food, corn masa flour, and wet corn mesa products to contain certain amounts of folic acid require. Senate Bill 306 by Senator Robertson of the 29th. Bona fide conservation use property impending expiration to be sent via certified mail require notices. Senate Bill 406 by Senator Brass of the 6th and others. Georgia Property Owners Bill of Rights Act enact. Senate Bill 465 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others. Income taxes. Business enterprises that hire illegal aliens for large-scale projects from claiming certain tax credits associated with such projects disqualify. Senate Bill 473 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others. Motor vehicles and traffic. Submission of proof of completion of certified DUI, alcohol, or drug use risk reduction programs by certain applicants to obtain limited driving permits require. Senate Bill 498 by Senator Dixon of the 45th and others. Georgia Charter School Facilities Authority establish. Senate Bill 524 by Senator Harbin of the 16th and others. License plates. Specialty license plate honoring Girl Scouts of Georgia establish. Senate Bill 542 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others. Sexual offenses, clergy members to be charged with certain improper sexual contact offenses permit. Senate Bill 551 by Senator Watson of the 11th and others. Standard, labeling, and adulteration of food, eggs, repeal provisions. Senate Bill 552 by Senator Watson of the 1st and others. True patriotism and universal student access, TPUSA Act, enact. Senate Bill 565 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others. Peace officers, the definition of law enforcement unit and peace officer to include members of police forces of nonprofit private colleges and universities. Revise. House Bill 1199 by Representative Carson of the 46th and others. Revenue and Taxation, Internal Revenue Code and an Internal Revenue Code of 1986. Revise terms and incorporate certain provisions of federal law into Georgia law. Mr. President, that completes the order.
It is now time for the afternoon roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Any motions? Recognize Senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 14th, 7, 39, and 36 for business inside the Capitol.
Senators from the 14th, 7th, 39th, and 36th, without objections, they're excused. Recognize Senator from the 30th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 27th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, Senator from the 27th is excused. Recognize Senator from the 41st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 43rd.
Without objection, Senator from the 43rd is excused. Any other motions to excuse? Secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the yay switch. Secretary? It is now time for the afternoon devotion. All senators, please take your seat and cease all conversation. I would ask that the doorkeeper secure the chamber at this time. We have a pastor here today, is no stranger to this chamber. Glad to have him back too. Recognize the senator from the 55th to introduce our pastor of the day and lead us in our pledge. Senator?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the state flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag, principles for which it stands. Wisdom, justice, moderation, courage. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for morning devotion, and it is my great honor to introduce the senior pastor of the New Birth Missionary Baptist Church. Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant is a nationally respected pastor, thought leader, and advocate for social justice, whose voice has consistently bridged the sacred and the civic in pursuit of a moral, just society. Pastor Bryant currently serves as the senior pastor of the New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Stonecrest, Georgia, one of the largest and most influential congregations in the nation. A proud son of the African Methodist Episcopal tradition and the civil rights legacy, he has devoted his life to ministry that transcends the walls of the church and engages the pressing moral issues of our time. His work is focused on economic empowerment, voting rights, criminal justice, reform, education, and strengthening of families and communities across Georgia and the nation. He's educated at Morehouse College and Duke University, holding a doctorate from the Graduate Theological Foundation. Pastor Bryant combines theological scholarship with prophetic activism. He stands in the tradition of faith leaders who have long understood that the church must not only inspire souls, but also shape systems. Through his local, national, and international advocacy efforts, he has mobilized thousands to participate in the democratic process and to work toward equity and opportunity for all God's children. Pastor Bryant's leadership extends beyond the pulpit. He is a respected public voice who has engaged corporate leaders, policymakers, and grassroots organizers in conversations about fairness, access, and accountability, even DEI. His work has been instrumental in galvanizing communities around issues that directly impact working families, small businesses, and underserved populations. With a commitment to both faith and public service, he continues to champion initiatives that uplift communities and strengthens the social and economic fabric of Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant. Hear ye him. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Mr. President. I am joined today by a retinue of those from New Birth Missionary Baptist Church, as well as a contingent of clergy from across the state of Georgia. As we gather in the solemnity of this auspicious place, there are 54,925 square miles in the state of Georgia. And most of them are occupied by people who are working to make their lives of their families better than the lot that they've been given. All over this state, ordinary people are tending to the business of their destiny and have empowered you to be the guardians of their collective future. It is to you that they have entrusted the responsibility of making sure that the water is clean, the streets are safe, and their children receive the kind of education that every child deserves in America. For indeed, this is the contract of mutuality that constituents make up with their elected officials. And this is why they entrust the future of their collective resources to you, always in the hope that you will represent their interest and not your own. It is under the presumption of our general welfare that voters have empowered you to look past the particular details of your race, your class, your gender, and your ideological preoccupations in order to make life a little easier for the rest of us. We can debate about tax policy and unfunded mandates, but all of us should be in agreement as to how much we are willing to do to protect the children of the state of Georgia. It's okay to be Democrat or Republican, but all of us should be against the rise of political violence. And each of you should pray for the safety of your colleagues, no matter how much you vehemently disagree with them. It's a kind time to go back to the days when the quality of our humanity meant more to us than the quantity of our re-elections. And we have to do this because tribalism is killing democracy. In America, at a time when we have giants to face, and it is clear that there are a whole lot of Davids, but there seem to be a whole lot more Goliaths. As of December of 2025, the unemployment rate in Hancock County was above the national average, while the unemployment rate in Chattahoochee County, Quitman County, and Clay County are well over 7%, while the average in the nation is 4%. Until families in Bluffton have the same financial security as the families in Buckhead, we have giants to fight. And those of us who represent Atlanta cannot rest on our laurels, as those who represent Sparta are wrestling with poverty rates over 54% among the people you serve. We have giants to fight. Hatred is rising, racism is growing, marginalization is festering, and people in Southwest Georgia cannot find a job. We have giants to fight, and nobody is coming to save us. The federal government is not coming to the rescue. They're too busy threatening Iran and trying to stage a military intervention in Greenland, Venezuela, and threatening Canada to do anything about the giants we fight in Georgia. They don't seem to care about the cost of living, or that there's an inadequate amount of housing, or traffic infrastructure is in need of emergency care. 1 out of 8 Georgians who are living in poverty, or the chemicals being dumped into our waterways. Nobody is discussing the student absenteeism in public schools, so we're going to have to lace up our boots and find the courage to save ourselves. But the good news is that God hasn't given us the spirit of fear, and that we are not powerless. God, when He created the earth in 7 days, He didn't create racism. We did that. And because we created it, we have to fix it. It took Him 7 days to create the earth, and He didn't create poverty. We did that. And because we created poverty, we have to fix it. God did not create xenophobia nor bigotry. We created it, and so we have to fix it. Because none of these things are part of the inherent structure of the universe. It means that hatred is not ontological, and it has no metaphysical or essential qualities to it. We are created, and as a consequence, we cannot be savages against it. President John Fitzgerald Kennedy said, "No problem of human destiny is beyond the capacity of human beings to do something about it." And so as a consequence, you have been trusted to do something about it. And since Georgia is the place where the greatest American dreamer was born, we owe it to the children of Marietta and Lawrenceville, and the children of Savannah and Macon and Augusta, and the children of Kennesaw and Douglasville, the children of Covington and Carterville and Conyers and Smyrna and Hinesville and Stone Mountain to find a way. How in the world will America be great if Georgia refuses to be? This is our charge, and this is our call, and this is our assignment. Let us pray. Our heads are bowed, all eyes are closed. Good and gracious God, we thank you for putting a seed plot in us that now must come to harvest. I pray that you'll strengthen our arms so that we can pull other people up. I pray that you will lighten our feet so that we will step on nobody. I pray that you will enlarge our eyes so that we can see beyond ourselves. I pray that you'll broaden our back so that we can carry the least of these. I pray that you will strengthen our heartbeat so that we will find compassion. And I pray, dear Lord, that you will put in our bosom a fire that'll never go out. It's in your name that we pray. Amen. Amen.
We always like to introduce our pastors of the day, and to do that today, I want to recognize the senator from the 46th, the Classic City.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my pleasure today to introduce our doctor of the day, Dr. Rob Wilson. He's an orthopedic surgeon, and he's got fellowship training in sports medicine. Takes care of a lot of our Bulldogs. He's a native of Augusta, but he went to the University of Georgia. Got his bachelor's degree in biology and a master's in public health, and he went to the Medical College of Georgia. Then he has just continued his specialty in sports medicine. We're proud to have him a member of the medical community in Athens, where he takes care of our athletes and other sports injuries. Thank you. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Rob Wilson.
Thank you, guys. It's a privilege to be here and to chat with everybody. And I also wanted just to take a moment to thank you all for all the efforts I know you put in to help me do my job and do my best to take care of our athletes and our student athletes here in the state. I'm here for you all day. Please reach out to me if you ever need me for anything. Appreciate the opportunity, and go Dogs.
All right.
Hey, Doug. Picture with you real quick, and we'll put some work down here. Yeah, that's
We have some very special guests here. We have some very special guests here today. To recognize, Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 723 by Senators Wicks of the 34th and others, a resolution recognizing March 3rd, 2026 as Blue and White Day at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas Blue and White Day honors the combined service and community impact of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, the only constitutionally bonded brother and sister organizations among the National Pan-Hellenic Council. Whereas the Georgia chapters of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated continuously strive to improve the communities they work and reside in by establishing service projects designed to eliminate physical and mental health inequities, mobilize and educate voters, and empower previously marginalized citizenry. And whereas the Georgia chapters of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated strive to improve their communities by establishing projects and programs that advocate social, mental, and physical health and economic justice. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend the combined efforts of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated and recognize March 3rd, 2026 as Blue and White Day at the state capitol. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Recognize the senator from Savannah, Georgia, senator from the 2nd, to speak to the resolution. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. And this morning, colleagues, I rise with my other colleagues, the gentlewoman from the 12th and the gentlewoman from the 34th, as we celebrate Blue and White Day here at the Capitol with the men of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated and the ladies of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And we have the distinct honor and privilege of having both state directors here with us, Brother Dr. Walter Stevens, the state director for Phi Beta Sigma, and our amazing soror, Dr. T.C. McKay, who is the state director for Zeta Phi Beta. And I would like to give you this, Madam State Director, and I would like to ask Dr. Stevens to come and share a few brief words.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Mallow. Just want to say on behalf of over 3,000 members combined in our organizations, we're delighted to be here with you on this afternoon. We continue to work diligently in our districts to address those issues that we know are pertinent to those families and communities that we support and we love every single day. So thank you again.
All right. Good job. Good job. We'll line up down here and get us a picture. Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Recognize the senator from the 4th. The Statesboro Pride and Joy. GSUs. They're going to name some buildings after you before it's over with down there.
As always, thank you, Mr. President. Today we celebrate Georgia Reads Day, where I had the honor of welcoming over hundreds of students, much less teachers and parents, at a 1 p.m. ceremony recognizing 4 schools from Burke County, Camden County, Chattahoochee, and Daugherty County that received the championship reading trophy for winning the 2026 Read Bowl, along with 10 community honored with the 2026 Georgia Reads Community Awards. Let me read you those communities, and you'll recognize many of them. The name of the organization: Books for Keep, Athens and Clarks County; For the Love of Reading, Upson County; Harris Literacy Center at Augusta University; Jackson County Schools; One Lumpkin Reads; the Mayor's Impact Team at Monroe Walton; Get Merriweather Reading; Portal of Commencement Midpoint Shelter, Atlanta; reach out and read Georgia, Fulton County, United Way of Hall County. I'm also excited to announce the kickoff of Georgia Reads for America in partnership with the Georgia Public Library Service and the Georgia Municipal Association. And you got the flyer on your desk. This initiative invites all Georgians to honor the past and read for the future, exploring our nation's history, founding principles, and the values that shape our state and nation. As Malcolm Mitchell says, when you read, you succeed. And today we celebrate the students, schools, and communities leading the way in literacy across Georgia. Senate body, I want to thank each of you for your commitment to over the past 3 years in making literacy a top priority for our state and for supporting initiatives that give every Georgia student the chance to succeed. And we will not stop this movement until every student in Georgia reads on grade level. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Recognize Senator from the 21st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate colleagues, friends, and fellow Georgians. As a state senator from Georgia, I rise today in support of the recent military action taken by the United States against targets in Iran. These decisions are never made lightly. The use of force is among the most serious responsibilities of a nation. But there are moments in history when action becomes necessary, not for conquest, not for politics, but for justice, stability, and the protection of innocent lives. For too long, the people of Iran have endured oppression, violence, and systemic abuse under corrupt and brutal leadership. Entire communities have lived in fear. Families have been silenced. Basic human rights have been denied. When a regime commits crimes against its own people, when it uses intimidation, violence, and repression to maintain control, the world cannot simply look the other way. The recent strikes were not aimed at the Iranian people. They were aimed at dismantling the machinery of oppression. They were designed to weaken those who terrorize their own citizens and threaten regional stability. By targeting strategic assets tied to this leadership, we have taken decisive steps to eliminate the capacity for further crimes against the Iranian people. Liberation does not happen overnight. It is a process. It requires courage, not only from our servicemen and women, but from the people who will rebuild their nation. But make no mistake, when tyranny is confronted and its grip is broken, the door to freedom opens. America has always stood for the principle that all people are created with inherent dignity and rights. We believe that children deserve to grow up without the sound of bombs overhead. We believe that families deserve security in their homes. We believe that citizens deserve a voice in their own governance. Our military acts with precision, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to minimizing civilian harm. The goal is not destruction for its own sake. It is the restoration of peace and the creation of opportunity for self-determination. As Americans, we should be proud of the men and women in uniform who carry out these difficult missions. They do so not for personal gain, but to defend liberty and to stand against injustice wherever it threatens human life and freedom. History teaches us that evil flourishes when good people do nothing. In this case, we chose to act. We chose to stand on the side of the oppressed rather than the oppressor. The road ahead will require vigilance, diplomacy, and partnership. But today, we can say clearly, we have taken a stand for freedom, and we have sent a message that crimes against innocent people will not go unanswered. Thank you, and may God bless our troops and the cause of liberty around the world. Mr. President, I yield the will.
All right, Senator. Good job. Recognize Senator from the 20th. The pro tem.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, colleagues. I too rise today to honor our fallen heroes, service members who gave their lives in defense of our nation and really the world in the current conflict with the radical, oppressive, murderous regime in Iran. Following the beginning of combat operations in the Middle East, American service members have lost their lives in an Iranian strike on U.S. bases. These soldiers will be remembered not just for their death, but their selfless service, courage, and heroism. Their tragic death is a stark reminder of the price of freedom and security. Without the selfless service of these courageous young Americans, we as a nation and as a state would not enjoy the liberties that allow us to gather here today. The names of the fallen service members are currently withheld until their families have been notified, but I would ask that you keep their families in your prayers. As we progress through the session, let the memory of their sacrifice be first in your heart, and let their example guide you to be the best possible public servant you can be to the state of Georgia. I would ask the Senate to please join me in a moment of silence so that we may reflect on the sacrifice made by these heroes and make a silent prayer for their families.
If every senator could stand, the senator has asked for a moment of silence.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? You have recognized the senator from 47th. If it's not one side, it's the other. I'll tell you what. We're going to let y'all start having interviews before session starts. What do you think, 27th?
I'll make this real quick. I want to make sure that folks understand. Look, I was a competitive shooter in high school and college. We all know we have a part to do when we deal with firearms. I don't know if any of y'all heard about the verdict today. We're dealing with the shooting in Appalachia and holding the father of Colton Gray, responsible for the actions of his son. To me, I think we ought to award the great work of the prosecuting attorneys, the district attorneys, and law enforcement that went on to prove that case. They don't know what the outcome will be as far as the punishment, but it is good to know that our court system works and we hold people accountable for misjustice in what's going on with firearms. So thank you for your patience. I'll yield.
Recognize the senator from the 34th.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. As a 30-year Army veteran who has served from Somalia to Iraq in NATO operations, you did not just say those words, you lived them. Supporting our troops means more than just an applause. It means you making sure they come home with the quality of health care, for fighting for free access to mental health services, protecting benefits that they have earned, standing with our Gold Star families, long after the headlines have faded, ensuring our military children and their spouses support them too. Organizations like United States Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of Defense, have the responsibility to do what's right by our service members. But the leadership at the time of every level must be held to the standard. Supporting our troops isn't about policies or political. It's about the patriots. It's about required of actions, not just about words. Thank you.
Recognize the senator from the 27th.
Well, Mr. President, I come to give you news. We've got more election shenanigans in Fulton County. It's a tired story, it's a tired tale, but this one is over the top even for Fulton County. You see, by their own rule, Fulton County is supposed to have a balanced election board. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 1 person appointed by the chairman of the county commissioners, which in this case would be a 3rd Democrat. So they've already got a structural advantage of a 3-2 partisan split. But Fulton County is violating their own rule in refusing to seat the Republican nominee. Now, they did this all the way back in May. So the GOP nominated a Republican. Jason Frazier is his name. Fulton County's refused to seat him. They were ordered by a court to follow their own rule back in June. They've since been held in contempt of court twice. In August, they were levied a $10,000 a day fine, and they still refuse to seat the Republican member of the state election board. Now, Mr. President, yesterday the chairman of the Fulton County Board of Commissioners came to our ethics committee here and had the audacity to refer to the state election board as, quote, hyper-partisan. And meanwhile, the same gentleman is leading the charge to ensure that the Republican nominee does not get seated to the state election board. So I know that some of my colleagues like to, they feel bad, they think we're beating up on Fulton County, but goodness, can one of y'all call Fulton County and just tell them to follow the law? This is getting tired, and it seems like the only thing that will work, Mr. President, is for the state election board to come in and take over the Fulton County elections. Mr. President, it's time, it's past time, and it is always Fulton County. I yield the will.
Recognize the senator from the 13th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hey, colleagues, on your desk you'll find some pecans, cinnamon, and praline, all these different varieties. Do you all remember a guy named Newt Hudson that served in the House for many, many years? Representative Newt Hudson. His son, Randy Hudson, and his son, Scott Hudson, have Hudson Pecan Company in Irwin County. Delicious. So if you want to order from them, thank you. This is compliments of Irwin Pecan Company, Irwin County. Hope you enjoy them. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 35th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one point to make today, and that's, again, $7 billion. $7 billion. $7 billion is how much Georgians paid because of the failed tariff policy from our corrupt president. $7 billion. We were third in unlawful costs and tariffs, third. We paid more in tariffs, Georgia did, than Illinois. We paid more than New York. It speaks to the power of our economy, but that cost got passed on to everyday citizens. And we've been in this chamber, we've been going back and forth on tax policy. We haven't talked much at all about health insurance, but everybody in Georgia needs to know that we paid $7 billion in unnecessary costs because of tariffs. And I am looking forward to the day where both sides of the aisle, we can be constructively critical of our own party and of the other party. I'll try to do my part. Please hold me accountable, and I'll ask you to do the same. But if we're going to talk about affordability, let us address the $7 billion elephant in the room, and that's our tariff policy. Thank you.
All right, we're moving on. You have a consent calendar, privilege resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution on the consent calendar? Chair hears none. The resolution on the consent calendar is adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? You have before you a consent calendar of local bills. Mr. Secretary, have anyone filed any objections to anything on the consent calendar?
No objections have been filed, Mr. President.
Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is on the state and local government operations, which is favorable to the passage of the bill in the local consent calendar? Chair hears none. Report of the committee is agreed to. The question is on the passage of the bill in the local consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 45 and the nays are 0. This bill on the local consent calendar, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Moving on to the rules calendar. Secretary read SR 800, please.
Senate Resolution 800 by Senators Goodman of the 8th and others, a resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on the Generational Sustainability of Family Farms and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be quick. This is a bill for a joint House and Senate study committee on the sustainability of family farms. I think everybody in this chamber is aware of the difficulties that are going on in agriculture in our rural communities right now. And I'm pretty excited about it, and I think that it shows as a General Assembly that we take it seriously. That it is a joint study committee. And with that, Mr. President, I'll answer any questions or yield the will.
You have no questions,
Thank
Senator.
you, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill, the resolution? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption resolution, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0. Resolution having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Recognize the Majority Leader.
Mr. President, it's unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 46 for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 46 is excused. Secretary Reed, House Bill 377.
House Bill 377 by Representatives Leverett of the 123rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Subpart 1 of Part 4 of Article 2 of Chapter 2 of Title 8 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions for manufactured or mobile homes so as to provide for limited exceptions to circumstances under which a manufactured home shall become real property, to provide for preservation of rights and remedies of prior holders of a lien or security interest in certain manufactured homes, to provide for notice and application requirements, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Bearden. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight offers the following substitute to House Bill 377, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to state, county, and municipal road systems so as to revise contracting procedures related to the acquisition of certain professional services by counties and municipalities, to amend Chapter 9 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to public works bidding so as to revise contracting procedures related to the acquisition of certain professional services by counties and municipalities, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 37th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, House Bill 377 is actually a bill that this body voted out 54-1 earlier in the session as Senate Bill 51. The HB 377 is the vehicle, House vehicle we're using to pass the qualification-based selection of architects and engineers. The exact language we passed as a body. Glad to take questions. I will tell you on your desks is a copy of a support letter outlining a whole variety of organizations that support this. This is a consensus bill, mostly. We tried to work through some disagreements with local governments, but I think we're in a place of understanding, at least, that we, and having passed this as a body, be glad to take questions. If there are no questions, I'll yield the will. Urge your support of what's.
You have one question. Recognize the senator from the 27th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I do.
Can you walk me through the current rules around sole source bidding? And one of the things I've heard about this is it may open the door to single sourced bids as opposed to competitive bids.
Yeah.
Under essentially the new qualifications-based bidding.
This does not change the terms of our statute with respect to what has to be competitively advertised. What this does say is, I think the analogy I share with people is when you're hiring someone to design a bridge or an overpass, do you want to hire the cheapest person or you want to hire the best person that meets your budget? I think the misnomer you see here is if in submitting qualifications, if there's only one firm that submits qualifications that chooses to submit quals after a competitive advertisement, an open advertisement, then the local government's not precluded from accepting that one if they think they're fully qualified. That's kind of the misnomer there.
Do you further yield?
I do.
Can you envision a scenario in which qualifications can be written such that they only apply to one vendor that meets the qualifications, and therefore this is a way of allowing sole source bidding in under what would not be allowed under Georgia law currently? I don't know if that would be in areas perhaps of lower population, or if that could even be done in more dense populated areas like the ones that you and I represent. I'd like to get your perspective on that, because that is something that when this came before a committee that I was on, I don't think it came out of that committee, but that was something that was discussed.
Yeah, appreciate the question. If something were written in a way that were specifically targeted at one company, I think there'd be a very easy ability to overturn that in terms of being a competitive procurement. Procurements have to be open to an open class of organizations, and if that's violated, that's not substantially true. That could be relatively easily overturned by the courts. What you may find, and what you do find sometimes, is, for example, if there's one architect or engineer that has tremendous experience in an area, that has experience in the locality, that has experience in the building type, and is really uniquely expert, sometimes you'll find in the market, it doesn't happen much, but sometimes in the market, folks will look around and realize, yeah, this person is overwhelmingly the best. This person is very likely to win because they've got the unparalleled qualifications, and sometimes other firms won't choose to submit qualifications at all. And what this clause simply says is, if that's the case, if other firms choose not to participate, that should not preclude an extremely, in some cases, singularly qualified firm from being able to be awarded, simply because others choose not to participate.
Do you yield for one more question?
Yes, sir.
I think what you're trying to prevent, correct if I'm wrong, is under the current law, and I'd like you to clarify if this is the case, you could have that preeminently qualified individual that you're talking about, and if that bid was $5 more than somebody who was clearly not as qualified, is it true that the local governments currently do not have any option but to choose the person who is $5 cheaper but not as qualified?
Yes, sir. If their advertisement says it's a price-based selection, a dramatically less qualified. Doesn't mean that if someone's completely unqualified, they have no business even submitting, they'd be discounted. But a dramatically less qualified, a minimally qualified firm that has a $10 lower fee than a very highly qualified firm could win if it's a dollar-based selection, and that's what this is seeking to address.
Thank you.
You have no questions, Senator.
Urge your support of House Bill 377.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Recognize Pro Tem. For what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State your
President.
inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that presiding is harder than it looks? And you make it look really easy and good, but it's harder than it looks.
I don't know, the way I was stumbling and bumbling through those words just then. I don't know if I make it look easy or not, but I appreciate your appreciation of the position. How about that? On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 45, the nays are 6. This bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Senator, for the 45th, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, isn't it true that it's Special Education Day here at the Capitol? And I've got a group here in the back that is here today
knows
and would
of what
love
he
to
speaks.
recognize them, sir. Thank you.
You do have some there, Senator. Why don't you tell us who they are real quick, Senator, so we can recognize them properly?
We've got several. We've got Chelsea. She's here with us. She's actually she's running for the Gwinnett County School Board.
Oh, now we can't have campaigns now going on in here. We got enough people running for office in here already now. So
just doing a little stumping.
All right. Well, so this is a group of ladies from Gwinnett County School System. Is that right? Special Ed School System.
Correct.
All right. Let's all over the state. Well, let's give them a big round of applause for what they do. We do appreciate all y'all's hard work. I know from experience, being the son of a lady who was a school teacher for more than 25 years, I know the hard work y'all do. So my mother would be proud that y'all are here representing down here at the Capitol. So thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Y'all come down here and get a picture with us in a little bit. Secretary, read the caption on Senate Bill 240.
Senate Bill 240 by Senator Williams of the 25th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title I of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to holidays and observances so as to designate April of each year as Georgia Native Plant Month, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Natural Resources and the Environment recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 240, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title I of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to holidays and observances so as to designate April of each year as Georgia Native Plant Month, to amend Article 3 of Chapter 3 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to other state symbols so as to change the state floral emblem to the Sweet Bay Magnolia, to provide for related matters, to provide for a short title, to repeal conflicting laws, for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Y'all had a handout on your...
If we could have everybody's attention real quick, because we have a senator presenting a bill in the well, so if everybody could.
And this is one of the most important bills you will see this session. Pay attention. You have a little handout on your desk this morning talking about the state flower. Something that I'd started working on about 3 years ago, and then House Representative Deborah Silcox got in there with me, and we started working on this. And I had an outstanding Georgian, Virginia Lynch, down in Putnam County, that does a lot of habitat stuff and working on gardens. And she had come to me and said, we need to change the state flower. That Cherokee rose came from China. I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, the Cherokee rose actually came from China. We want to change it from the Cherokee rose to the Sweet Bay magnolia. The Sweet Bay magnolia happening to be a native Georgian plant, actually native to here to Georgia. We even have letters from the Cherokee Nation. They have no objection to this. Yes, change it. That's fine with us. So they even said that the Sweet Bay magnolia had medicinal qualities, not to be confused with hemp, not to be confused with any of that other natural growing stuff, but actual Indian medicinal qualities. So, you know, I had a little push from my wife, Donna, my daughter-in-law, Holly, that are both in garden clubs, and I know other senators have come to me that they've heard from their garden clubs. So, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I ask for your favorable consideration, and with that, I'll leave the well. Thank you.
All right, I know everybody had questions about your flower there, Senator, but we got to move on here. We got to move on. Senator from the 6th, you have something legit to talk about here? You do? All right, come on down.
That was a fair question, Mr. President. But I have something very legit. This bill came to me about 2 years ago. Senator Williams and the senator from the 25th and Representative Silcox have been working on this for several years. And at first I did not agree with the premise of what we were doing. But after sitting down with these groups and learning that the Cherokee rose is not native to Georgia, and the issues that can bring on our local ecosystem, I started looking into it further, and then I was reminded of one of my favorite authors is Thomas Carlyle, and in his book Sartor Resartus, in the book 3rd, chapter 3, there's the title of that chapter is Symbols, and it talks about the duties of a legislator. And the duties of a legislator is to recognize when a symbol has lost its meaning and quietly make it go away. And so as I thought of that passage and I thought about this, it is now time for the Cherokee rose to go away. But I wanted to make sure we were doing our due diligence, and so I asked the advocates to go to our Georgia recognized Cherokee tribes. We have 2, and make sure that to get their permission that this was going to be okay. And I have received letters from both tribes that they are okay, and they have no ties to the Cherokee rose. And so, you know, our Georgia economy, it depends on agriculture, forestry, landscaping, and tourism. And so promoting native plants supports these industries. It reduces our invasive species costs, and it reinforces stewardship of our natural resources. So this is a small statutory correction that reflects sound ecological policy and cultural accuracy. So I encourage your favorable support. And since the senator from the 25th didn't want to take questions, I'll be more than happy to field his questions.
Believe it or not, nobody has any questions for you either, Senator.
Well, I guess I just sold them so well on this. But it's time. The time for the Cherokee rose is past.
Oh, we do actually have a question.
And it is time for the
Senator.
Sweet Bay magnolia.
Senator from the 18th, do you wish to ask a question?
Does the senator yield the well?
I will yield for our newly elected freshman senator from the 18th.
Is this taking a stand against the Cherokee rose equivocal to...
You're going to have to speak up, sir.
Is taking a stand against the Cherokee rose equivocal to taking a stand against China?
No, we're taking a stand against invasive species that can disrupt our eco something. ecosystem.
Wow, great
I
answer,
yield the
Senator. You ought to yield on that one. That was impressive, Senator. Senator from the 25th, would you like to come back up and close debate? Senator from the 27th, you wave. All right. The senator from the 18th coming in with a high heater on you. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 6th, for what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, is it not true that the rules chairman never forgets? And when a freshman senator tries to haze him,
wow,
things can happen.
He got up under your skin, didn't he, Senator? On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0. This bill has received the requisite constitutional majority. Is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary reads Senate Bill 437.
Senate Bill 437 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 8 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to state building, plumbing, and electrical codes so as to provide for acknowledgement of an applicant's use of a private professional provider to conduct a plan review or inspection, and that such review or inspection may proceed regardless of whether the local governing authority have performed its own plan review or inspection, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Brass, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 437, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 8 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to state building, plumbing, and electrical codes so as to provide for building inspection procedures for residential properties, to provide for schedules of certain fees, to provide for certain notifications, to provide for acknowledgement of an applicant's use of a private professional provider to conduct a plan review or inspection, and that such review or inspection may proceed regardless of whether the local governing authority had performed its own plan review or inspection, to permit in-person or virtual plan reviews or inspections, to provide for a shorter period for local governing authorities to approve applications, to prohibit local governing authorities from charging convenience fees, to provide for procedures to use a private professional provider for plan review or inspection, to provide for an acknowledgement, to provide for plan review, to authorize pre-qualification, to provide for pre-qualification procedures, to authorize permit denial, to provide procedures for permit certain stop orders. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 45th. Speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President, Senate colleagues. I bring Senate Bill 437 before you today. It has to do with the home building industry, and its intent is to cut red tape and make the permitting process more clear and quicker. What the bill does, it's clarification on third-party inspections, and also it provides options for virtual inspections. In existing statute, it allows for third-party plan review and inspections. However, there is some discrepancy within the code about whether a contractor or a property owner needs to wait 30 days before they can engage a third party to perform that plan review and inspection. The bill also clarifies that private party professionals may be used immediately. It accelerates the timeline from 30 days to 15 business days for a plan review or an inspection, and that cuts red tape and is business friendly. It also allows for the virtual option for inspections, and it is geared and neck down only to residential buildings under 3 stories. And it is included for, as far as the virtual option, it is for HVAC, roofing, mechanical, and other things like that as far as inspections. But it does not mandate virtual. It just gives another tool in the tool chest for local governments. 17 other states are already allowing virtual options. These virtual inspections are geotagged for proof of address. There's a permanent recording for an audit trail for inspections. The virtual option also adds a same-day turnaround for minor issues, like if you had an inspection, an electrical inspection, and there was a 2x4 that was busted because they drilled through too quickly. They could do a virtual inspection same day, make the fix, and move on instead of having to wait a day or two for the inspector to make time to make it out back out to the house. It also, if a third-party private provider is used, the local government still receives 50% of their fees. It creates one standard for DCA website instead of hundreds of different forms. Nothing in this bill changes required licenses or
It's a good bill, Senator. It's a good bill. Yield the well. You got it. Everybody's gonna vote for it.
I still got another page to go through.
Bye. Go.
I was trying to get everybody to take a nap before we had to vote. I just go push their button.
You got it, baby. You got it. You got it. Anybody votes against it, we won't call on them again. All right.
I'll yield the well.
All right. When you got it sold, you got to walk away from the sale, right? All right, any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objections to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. I do see the First Lady of the 45th is back there. Oh, I see. Look at her. Everybody, stand up and wave to everybody. Let's give her a big round of applause. She's the best, absolute best. So glad to have you here today, Ms. Dixon. Oh, man. On the passes of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 1, and that senator no longer has any bills on the rules calendar. All right, this bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary Reed, SB 443.
Senate Bill 443 by Senator Summers of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to offenses against public order so as to increase the punishment for the offense of obstructing highways, streets, sidewalks, or other public passages, to provide for enhanced punishment in certain instances, to authorize civil liability for damages, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 42nd District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Judiciary Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 443, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to offenses against public order so as to provide for the offense of obstructing highways or streets, to provide for punishment, to authorize civil liability for damages, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
I recognize the senator from the 13th District to speak to Senate Bill 443.
Thank you, Mr. President. Folks, I bring to you all Senate Bill 443. It is a simple, common sense bill. It is something that parents should have taught people a long time ago. Don't block the streets. It has nothing to do with sidewalks, other issues. It's simply that don't block any kind of roads, because that way you don't stop a parent from getting to school or vice versa. You don't stop an ambulance. You don't stop a fire truck, whatever. You want to protest? I'm all for it. I'll sit there and protest with some folks. You just don't do it in the middle of the roads. That's what Senate Bill 443 says. Any questions, Mr. President? I'll yield away.
You do have some questions,
Bring them
Senator.
on. Bring them on.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Senator, you yield?
Absolutely.
Just clear up something for me, because I have multiple phone calls from my area. Does this, if somebody's out on a sidewalk protesting, does this take them off the sidewalks?
Absolutely not. They can protest from the sidewalk, corners, whatever, just not in the middle of roads.
Good. Thank you, Mr.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 55th for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
I got you. Go ahead.
I think you may have just answered my question, but if we have people exercising their First Amendment right, will it yield to this particular legislation? If they are on the sidewalk and there is a public gathering right here on the Capitol, at the Capitol or in the county square, and they happen to be on a sidewalk when someone is speaking like Jesus.
Senator, the question, if I understand your question, this bill is simply to keep people out of the main roads of public transportation. That's it.
And this, with the gentleman further yield?
Absolutely.
And this will not be used by law enforcement or anyone else to punish people exercising their right in a disparate.
This bill becomes what they call a highly aggravated misdemeanor, Senator. It simply says that if people do not move when ordered to by law enforcement or other personnel that are designed to, give those orders, they can it can be charged with a highly aggravated misdemeanor if they don't get out of the roads. But not on the sidewalks and not on the steps.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 8th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
From Agriculture Chairman, go ahead.
So, Senator, this question comes from my page, Nathan Lancaster, who's here with me, and his dad is in the balcony. His dad wrote the most comprehensive book that I've ever read on the Georgia farmers' strike. And Nathan just wants to know if your bill will affect the tractor cage if we ever want to bring them back again.
Absolutely. We put a carve out just for that in the bill.
Thank you, Senator.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. To my good friend, do you yield?
Absolutely.
Senator, on the anniversary of the march to Selma across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, if that type of civil rights demonstration were to take place here in Georgia, would it be illegal under this bill of a high and aggravated misdemeanor?
In regards to the march?
The civil rights demonstration Dr. King led a group of protesters across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and it became known as Bloody Sunday as they were met by National Guard and state patrolmen. So if that type of demonstration were to take place again today and they were to march across a bridge in Georgia, that would be a high and aggravated misdemeanor.
It is my understanding that would be receive a permit, and then it would not be, they could do that if they received the permit. Senator, thank you for that question.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th.
Does Senator yield?
Absolutely, sir.
Senator, I appreciate your legislation and appreciate the intent. If you would go to line 12, there's a strike there. And if I read starting on line 11, it would say, a person who without authority of law purposely or recklessly obstructs any highway or street, and then the strike goes through sidewalk or other public passage in a way as to render it impasse without unreasonable inconvenience or hazard, and fails or refuses to remove obstruction after receiving a reasonable official request of the order of peace officer, he or she do so is guilty of a higher aggravated misdemeanor. My question to you is, if a properly permitted protest, which allows individuals to gather on a sidewalk, and in many communities, these individuals have to be moving on the sidewalk in their protest. If somebody comes out and blocks a protest that I'm in charge of, and we are moving around the government center or the Capitol, wherever, if someone obstructs us from moving, does your legislation now now allow them to obstruct? Was that an unintentional strike on that line?
No, Senator. Well, my legislation, when sidewalks was never supposed to be in the bill when I first drafted it, and sidewalks in a confined area would not be in part of the bill. This was sidewalks. I took that out because people have to have somewhere to gather if they're going to protest. Just can't get the road.
No, and I agree they have to protest. My concern, if the senator will continue to yield,
certainly,
would it not be true that by doing the strike that we do allow obstruction on the sidewalk now?
Senator, I have to yield to a judge on that one. I'd have to yield to the law on that one.
Would the senator continue to yield?
Yes, sir.
How's your day?
Excellent.
You having a good day? Good. My concern, Senator, and you please let me know if I'm misreading this, my concern is, and I have been permitted to many protests that I have set up and participated in, and as long as the group of individuals that I was protesting with, as long as we were moving on the sidewalk, we were within the rules and the laws of the communities in which we were protesting. But if anyone came out and tried to obstruct us from moving, that person could have been prohibited at that time from doing that. My concern in this, because what you're adding is, you're adding this in existing code, is that not correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so would that strike in existing code allow someone to obstruct me and my group's ability to walk up and down a public sidewalk? Was that your intent?
That's my intent. Your group was permitted. That's the key word that you had there.
Right.
The ones that would be obstructing that were not permitted could be, I guess, charged with a highly aggravated misdemeanor if they were interrupting or causing issues. If I understood your question correctly.
Yeah, that would be my concern. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st.
Will the senator yield?
For the majority leader.
Senator, do you have any?
Sir?
Do you have any sidewalks in Crisp County that are your favorite?
We have 2.
Where are they located?
Or 3.
You'll further yield.
Thank you.
Do you have any intersections that you've seen?
I understand you.
Will the senator yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, do you have any intersections in Crisp County that have been an issue where you've had protests in the middle of an intersection or roadway?
Everybody in Crisp County follows the law, Senator, and we all get permits to do what we need to do, and we do it correctly.
Will the senator further yield?
Absolutely.
Do you have any counties in your district where this has been an issue in the middle of a roadway or intersection or highway or sidewalk?
Now you're picking on my counties. All
Actually,
my
I'm
counties.
just stalling.
All my counties are solid, Senator.
All right. The senator further yield?
Yes.
Do you know what the temperature is outside?
I certainly do.
What's the temperature?
57.
That's not too bad. Will the senator further yield?
I do. I know what the price of milk is too.
What, who's your favorite county commissioner in your Senate district?
My favorite county commissioner?
Yeah.
He was named Carden Summers, but now he's a senator.
Oh, okay. I got to leave it on that. Thank you, Senator.
You're welcome. Mr. President, I think I yield the well.
Senators yielded the well. We've got a late arriving amendment, hence the conversation, I guess. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, colleagues. I want to thank my friend from the 13th. I think this is an important piece of legislation that needs to be passed. We have seen throughout the country where individuals have placed themselves and the lives of other citizens and the lives of first responders in danger by putting themselves in the middle of streets, highways, and roads, on bridges, in order to impede or obstruct law enforcement actions. What this legislation does not do is it does not prevent any group from whatever city they're in, whether it be Atlanta, Columbus, Augusta, or Savannah, from going out and becoming permitted and being allowed to conduct any march that works and does not counter the public safety within the community. We see this happen on holidays. We see it happen during the riots of 2020, where we had several groups that went out and chose to do it the wrong way, whether it was obstructing, burning down businesses and other things. But at the same time, there were groups who went through the permitting process and who went out and held peaceful marches up and down streets, roads, and streets here in Atlanta, in my district, and in other districts around the state. And all the senator is attempting to do, which I commend him for doing that, is to protect individuals by making sure that they exercise their First Amendment rights in a way that protects them, protects the other citizens within the community, and also protects the first responders that must be able to respond in times of emergency. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
So an amendment's being distributed to your desk. Senate will suspense for a minute. Secretary will read the amendment.
Senator Hatchett of the 50th offers Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 443 sub. By instituting after line 17, a person who, without authority of law, purposely or recklessly obstructs any sidewalk or other public passage in such a way to render it impossible without unreasonable inconvenience or hazard, and fails or refuses to remove the obstruction after receiving a reasonable official request or the order of a peace officer that he or she do so, is guilty of a misdemeanor. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 50th to speak to his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Look at the substitute you have on your desk. The intent of the senator from the 13th was to make it a high and aggravated misdemeanor if you block a highway or a street. When he did this, he actually struck out the words sidewalk or other passage. His intent, my understanding of his intent, was to make the sidewalk or passage not subject to the high and aggravated misdemeanor. But when he did that, he essentially struck out the words sidewalk or public passage completely. What this amendment does is keeps the law the exact same as it is now for sidewalk or other passage, public passage. And what it does is it just, if you're blocking a sidewalk or other public passage, it will be a misdemeanor as it is now if you refuse to follow law enforcement's instruction, or if you refuse to follow a reasonable request from an officer or peace officer. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but what this amendment would do would keep the intent of the bill the same, but then also keep the law current as it deals with sidewalks or other public passage. I'm happy to yield for questions.
No questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Wait, sorry. Late arriving question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes, I will.
I just want to better understand what you explained here. I got my amendment kind of on the later side. So, is it true that if someone is protesting on the sidewalk and they don't move without a permit, and they don't move, if a safety officer instructs, this person would then be guilty of a misdemeanor based on this amendment? Is that true?
Well, that is the current law now. If you pass this bill, you're giving them immunity completely. If you pass this bill with the amendment, as it deals with sidewalks and public passages, it stays the same.
Okay. Does the senator further yield?
I do.
Is it true that if you are protesting and you move from the sidewalk to the main road and you obstruct that road, the offense is now a aggravated, well, what's the charge? I think it's a aggravated misdemeanor? Is that true?
High and aggravated misdemeanor.
Is that true?
If this bill passes, if you're blocking a street or a highway, then it's a high and aggravated misdemeanor. Correct.
Okay. Does the senator further yield?
I do.
If there's a circumstance where you have protesters that are both on, or even moving back and forth between a street and a sidewalk, being that they can be feet away from one another, how then would the charge go? Would they be charged with the surface of the peace officer's choice, or would it be, like, how would that work, being that we have two different charges for blocking a sidewalk versus blocking something 3 feet away on a road? Just want to better understand.
Well, if you're blocking a street and you're asked to move and you don't move, it's a high and aggravated misdemeanor. If you're on a sidewalk and you're asked to move and you don't move, it's a regular misdemeanor, as is the law now. I can see hypotheticals where there could be some, your concern is valid, I understand what you're saying. And there could be an issue where you may be on the street or the sidewalk, but bottom line, we can't give immunity, blanket immunity to people blocking a sidewalk. And if we don't pass this amendment, then it will give blanket immunity for someone that's blocking a sidewalk and refusing to obey a police officer's commands.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Senator further yield?
I will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th.
Jim and Yield?
Yes.
Essentially, just for members of this body, isn't it true that a misdemeanor and a high and aggravated misdemeanor both carry the same potential criminal sentence? It's no more than a year probation in essence. But the penalty is higher on a high and aggravated misdemeanor. So you could be penalized more, but that's really the main distinction in law. Is that not true?
That's correct.
So again, that being the case, perhaps it seems appropriate that blocking a street might carry a higher penalty in terms of a fine, but there's no difference in jail time or exposure to confinement, correct?
That's my understanding.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
I do.
If I could direct you to line 9 on your amendment. And forgive me from being just to your south. We spelled misdemeanor a little differently than you have spelled here, and I'm just wondering if you would take a little friendly correction on that.
This amendment was done with great haste and with the assistance of a good friend of mine, and I will yield to the senator from the 48th if you'd like to amend that if it is misspelled incorrectly.
I just think we might have one extra vowel in there. So could we buy now? Would you like to buy a vowel?
I'd like to buy, yes, I would.
And also, just since we're talking about Scrivener's errors, line 8, are you referencing the former Vice President of the United States as a Pence officer, or is that Peace?
That's Peace.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
All right, with that, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. President, I will yield the well.
Senator's yield the well is, so where I live, we do pronounce it misdemeanor. Misdemeanor, kind of like that. But would somebody like to draft a Amendment 1A, please, so we can correct the spelling? Chair recognizes the senator from the 47th, Mr. Dozial. Thank you.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Where you're from, how do you spell inconvenience, and is it spelled differently than it is currently spelled on line 6?
Maybe somebody should really fly-spec this. I thought we had people running for Attorney General and all in the body that could help us with this kind of thing, but so yeah, I think that's Scribner's era. Is anybody going to help us out, or we want to pass it as is? Oh wait, we have an amendment coming, I think. Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd. What purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true this isn't my handwriting?
Senator knows of what she speaks. Chair recognizes the senator from the 47th. What purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think they call this perfecting the bill.
On the fly, yes, sir. That's sometimes how we operate here. Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd as we're just buying time.
Thank you, Mr. President. The original author of this bill, how many stoplights does he have in his district?
That's for each and every senator to determine for himself or herself. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chair.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the senator from the 19th's expertise is mathematics and budgeting and not grammar?
The senator from what district?
The 19th. As we know, is the amendment writer.
He is a brilliant mathematician and strategist, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th. Our public safety, this is a public safety issue, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear from the public safety chairman.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State your inquiry, Mr. Public Safety Chairman.
Mr. President, isn't it true that this bill certainly went through the Judiciary Committee and not the Public Safety Committee?
Good point, Senator. Once again, Chair recognizes the illustrious senator from Forsyth County, Senator from the 27th.
Sorry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that on line 6 the word refuse should be refuses, and that if we're going to do one amendment, we might as well go ahead and fix this whole thing here? It currently reads inconvenience or hazard and fails or refuse to remove the obstruction, but it should be fails or refuses. Is that not true, Mr. President?
I believe you're correct. Once again, thank you.
Mr. President, further parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Whose handwriting is this, Mr. President?
Well, it's authored by the senator from the 50th and the senator from the 56th, and they sit next to each other. So, as my calculus teacher used to say, it may be the blind leading the blind, Senator. All right, just stand at ease for a minute, please. All right, senators. hang with me here. We've got Amendment 1A by the Appropriations Chairman, Senator from the 19th, co-sponsored by the Senator from the 50th, who's already kind of suspect with the spelling situation here. But I'm going to read it to you as the amendment is distributed, or the Secretary will read it. But if there are any other, before we do that, if you found anything else, Senator from the 27th, you think we're good to go? All right. Secretary will read Amendment 1A.
Mr. President, Senator Tillery of the 19th and Senator Hatchett of the 50th offer Amendment 1A to amend Amendment 1 to the Senate Committee substitute to Senate Bill 443 by replacing inconvenience on line 6 with inconvenience, by replacing misdemeanor on line 9 with misdemeanor, by replacing refuse on line 6 with refuses. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 19th. Do you wish to speak to your Amendment 1A? This ought to be good.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank all of you, because what we were doing here today was actually trying to highlight the important issue that the Senator from the 4th has been working on with literacy. And you passed. You are in the percentile of 30% of our third graders. Who would have caught that? And I think that's something that we should highlight at every opportunity we get, that if we're not making sure that our third grade students are reading on grade level, then we know that we're going to be stuck building prisons in the budget that you have for the general budget to accommodate that, because those ratios seem to follow almost exactly. The second point I want to bring up is, you sorry dogs are going to miss me. It has been a ton of fun to work on amendments. My first one that I ever did was one with the word October that was misspelled Octubre on purpose. That was done to block a group who was trying to bar an adoption bill from passing our chamber. And by simply misspelling a word, we were allowed to put another amendment on that kept them from stripping adoption rights off the floor on the 40th day of session in the year 2017. Sometimes misspellings are intentionally done wrong. Today they were not. We were trying to quickly fix the Senator from the 13th Senate Bill 443 to make sure that we, in the process of raising the standard for blocking a roadway to be a high and aggravated misdemeanor, we were trying to make sure we didn't accidentally uncriminalize blocking a sidewalk. In the haste of doing that, y'all know that I write those over there, and for any of you who need it, even if I vote against your amendment, I don't mind trying to help you draft what you're trying to do for your district. And in the haste, I spelled three words wrong. I'm sure I'll get it done to get it wrong again. But the beauty of this body is that nobody does anything by themselves. So I appreciate the 55 of you who caught that mistake. We're able to fix it. And Mr. President, by now the amendment should have been given out. I can yield the well, or if comedy hour should ensue, I will happily yield for questions.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 42nd for a serious question, I'm sure.
Does the Senator yield?
Yes.
I like how you spun that to be about literacy and kids. Let's go back to the main point. Without looking down, will you look me in the eye? Can you spell misdemeanor for us right now? Up, look up. Look right here.
As you know, I only practice civil law.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 46th.
Yes, sir.
Senator, yield for a serious question.
Yes, sir.
Since you mentioned the building of prisons, isn't it true that a high and aggravated misdemeanor requires a convicted person to serve all but 4 days per month of their sentence, which is a significant difference in other sentencing where they can get a day off for every good day served? So we will be filling up at least the county jails if we have these problems, right?
We may be, but only for the offense of blocking a roadway, not blocking a sidewalk, which is what the amendment was meant to straighten out. If there are no further questions, Mr. President, I'll yield the well. Thank you for your time today.
Senator has yielded the well. All right, we're going to take up Amendment 1A. Amendment 1A. The question is on the adoption of Amendment 1A by the senator from the 50th to Amendment 1 by the senator from the, Amendment 1A by the senator in the 19th. All right, we have an objection. Do you wish to speak to your objection? All right. So on the adoption amendment 1A, those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption of Amendment 1A, the yeas are 37, the nays are 14. Amendment 1A is adopted. Now the business of Amendment 1, authored by the senator from the 50th, as amended. Is there objection to adoption of Amendment 1 as amended? Hearing none, Amendment 1 is adopted. Now we'll go to Senate Bill 443 as amended. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute is as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Chair recognizes the senator from 35th. What purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that we should expect more protests with potential future elections being suspended based on concerns that our president may have with local elections?
I can't predict the future, Senator.
Thank you.
On the adoption of the Senate Bill 443 as amended, the yeas are 35, the nays are 17. The measure passes by substitute. All right, I probably will never be asked to preside again after this got off the rails so bad. But anyway, we're going to move on. Secretary, read the caption of Senate Bill 447.
Senate Bill 447 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to control of soil erosion and sedimentation so as to revise provisions regarding denial or non-acceptance of permits, to amend Chapter 60 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to provisions applicable to counties and municipal corporations so as to provide general provisions for counties and municipalities regarding the acceptance, denial, or non-acceptance of certain permits, to require local issuing authorities to provide rejected permit applicants with a written list of reasons for denial within specified timeframes, to provide for definitions, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Brass, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 447, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to control of soil erosion and sedimentation so as to revise provisions regarding denial or non-acceptance of permits, to require local issuing authorities to provide rejected permit applicants with a written list of reasons for denial within specified time frames and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th to present Senate Bill 447.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate colleagues, I bring Senate Bill 447 before you today. It has to do with the home building industry. This has to do with your vertical work, your development work with land disturbance permits. And what it does is it creates clear criteria for a completed application. It also requires issuing authorities to respond within 45 days of an application, a completed application being submitted. And then through the development process, you'll get comments from that local issuing authority. And the change in the law, we would change it to where when a resubmittal is done and comments are made back from that, they have 14 days to make comments on a resubmittal. If no comments or any communications made from the local municipality, it would deem that project approved, and that's the teeth that's in the bill. Also, it would also do a carve out if local issuing authorities, if they use state agencies for issuance of land disturbance permits, the shot clock of the 45 days would not start until the permit is back in the local issuing authority's hands. It also requires written reason for denial, and then also it does have a carve out for restarting the timeline if there's major changes to the project, which would require the municipality more time to review that project. This bill simply cuts red tape. As far as local issuing municipalities, they make up about 26% of housing costs. This is an affordability issue. This will help speed up process of getting permits done. Mr. President, be happy to answer any questions or will yield well.
Good job, Senator. There are no questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine.
What's up, bro?
Chair recognizes the senator from 36. What purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that if a locality is charged with assessing the site for a massive data center, a common, not an uncommon thing that happens now, that could very conceivably require more than 45 days to isn't it true?
I think projects that large require state EPD permitting, so I don't know that that even falls under this, but I'm sure the author of the bill could answer your question. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46 and the nays are 4. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute.
All right. Looks like y'all moving at a good pace right here. I was gone for an hour and y'all got through 2 bills. Congratulations. But I appreciate my pro tem. Y'all need to quit giving him a hard time every time he gets up here. All right. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 463 by Senator Dolezal of the 27th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 44 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to regulation of specialized land transactions so as to prohibit business enterprises or business enterprises controlled by natural-born persons from owning an interest in more than 500 single-family residential properties, to prohibit foreign investment vehicles from owning any interest in a single-family residential property to be used as rental property, to provide a private cause of action against a business enterprise that owns an interest in more than 500 single-family residential properties and foreign investment vehicles, to provide for the disclosure of information by brokers, to provide an effective date and applicability, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Economic Development and Tourism recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Eccles of the 45th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Economic Development and Tourism offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 463, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 44, Chapter 7 of Title 48, and Chapter 1 of Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to regulation of specialized land transactions, income taxes, and general provisions relative to insurance, respectively, so as to prohibit business enterprises or business enterprises controlled by natural-born persons from owning an interest in more than 500 single-family residential properties, to prohibit foreign investment vehicles from owning any interest in a single-family residential property to be used as rental property, to provide a private cause of action against a business enterprise that owns an interest in more than 500 single-family residential properties and foreign investment vehicles, to preclude business enterprises owning or possessing an interest in more than 500 single-family residences from claiming certain income tax credits related to such ownership or possession, to revise deductions related to depreciation for single-family residential property owned or possessed by such business enterprises, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 27th.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the priorities identified by the Majority Caucus this year was to save the American dream. That's kind of the banner that we placed over all of our caucus priority bills that we have. But the good news is this bill, I believe, at least in committee, was a bipartisan bill, came out of committee with bipartisan support, and it's really attempting to address a new phenomenon. And that new phenomenon is hedge funds and private equity groups buying single-family homes at scale and turning them into rental houses. And the interesting thing about this phenomenon is that Metro Atlanta, and don't just think downtown Fulton County, think from Cherokee down to Noonan and Coweta County and large swaths of the larger metro area, lead the nation in this new phenomenon. And Mr. President, back in 2011, so 15 years ago, there was not a single investor, institutional investor in America that owned more than 1,000 housing units. But within just 4 years of that period of time, they had gobbled up over 250,000 homes across America. And I want to give you some statistics from 2022. And this is the share of single-family rental market held by investors with over 1,000 homes. And this is 4-year-old data, but this is the best data we can get, and this is from the Government Accounting Office. Seattle, Washington, 9%. Las Vegas, Nevada, 10%. Dallas, Texas, 7%. Houston, Texas, 7%. Miami, Florida, 5%. Cincinnati, Ohio, 5%. Kansas City, 6%. Atlanta, Georgia, 25%. So 25% of the rental homes in Atlanta, Georgia are currently owned by these large institutional investors. The latest data that we've seen on the actual resale of these homes is that in Metro Atlanta, 30% of all single-family homes that are listed for sale will get sold to an investor. And in most cases, those are not existing rental inventory, but those investors turn it into rental inventory. And the concern here, Mr. President, is for the last 100 years or so in America, the primary wealth creation tool for the middle class has been the purchase of a single-family home, locking yourself into a 30-year mortgage, getting up in the morning, going to work, paying that mortgage, coming home, letting your kids play outside at night, going to bed, and maybe leaving your door unlocked if you're lucky enough to be able to do that. And then sometime in your 60s, you can pay off that home, and you can use that equity in your home to retire. But the sad reality today in America is that the average age of a first-time home buyer has now crept up to 41 years old. And I was lucky enough not to sign my first 30-year mortgage at 41 years old. But for the Americans today that are signing their first 30-year mortgage at 41 years old, the math just doesn't work. You're not going to retire at 65 years old, and you may not retire at all because you may be stuck working to pay for that home. And so what we've seen with these large institutional investors is that they have bent the demand curve. And so right now, a young family that goes to buy their first home, maybe they're in their 30s, they're competing against Blackstone. And even if they can meet Blackstone's purchase price, what they can't meet is Blackstone's ability to pay cash, Blackstone's ability to forego appraisal contingency, their ability to forego an inspection contingency, their ability to close in 14 days. And so right now we have a situation where the American dream is being snatched away by Wall Street. And we look to solve that problem with Senate Bill 463. So I'll walk you through what the bill does. And I'll skip past the definitions other than to tell you the key definitions here are affiliated entity, business enterprise, and foreign investment vehicle, because we actually have a specific carve out in here for foreign investment vehicles. But we do not allow, if this bill passes, these institutional investors and investors in general to own more than 500 single-family homes in Georgia. This does not count against multifamily. This does not count against apartments. This does not count against anything other than single-family residences. We do not require divestment in this bill. So if an entity today, and there are some of them today that own more than 10,000 units, we just do not allow them to acquire any additional units until they would get under the 500 unit number. We do not want to change the supply curve with this bill. So this bill does not do anything with those who would build new single-family for-rent neighborhoods, because we recognize that part of the way that we solve the housing crisis in America is by adding additional housing inventory. The second key element of the bill is found on line 60, where we ban foreign investment vehicles from purchasing rental property altogether in the state of Georgia. How do we enforce it? We enforce it starting on line 79, and we allow claimants to bring a civil action, and we level a statutory damage on line 85 of $100,000 for each violation. A couple more elements of enforcement that we have on the bill start in Part 2, where we remove anyone who violates this code from the ability to claim a low-income housing tax credit, a tax credit for the rehabilitation of historic structures, and the depreciation of properties placed in service before 1987. So we would eliminate their ability to claim any of those three tax credits. And then on Part 3, we get to the actual Georgia state tax returns. And in Section 3.1, we eliminate the ability, 3.2, We eliminate the ability to claim depreciation on a corporate return. Section 3.3, we disallow the deduction for depreciation on a personal return. And then lastly, in Section 3.4, we disallow a deduction for expenses that come along with the usual costs associated with renting or leasing property. That's the core of the bill, Mr. President. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any, and if not, I'll yield the will.
You do have a few questions, Senator.
Okay.
Recognize Senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I do, to the Dean.
I want to commend you for bringing the idea behind this bill, but let me just get some clarification and sort of explore the number. Is that statewide or nationwide? What, of course, it applies only to Georgia, but why 500? That sounds like a lot to me, and I would certainly be amenable to saying it should be less than that.
We have landed on 500, essentially finding a middle ground between President Trump's executive order, which is actually 100 units. So he has an executive order that's a little bit more stringent than what this bill has. And then our friends in the House have brought various versions of this bill forward that started at 2,000 units. There was another bill in the Senate that started at 2,000 units. We thought that number was too high. We actually amended the other Senate bill yesterday in committee to come alongside this 500 number as well. We think that this does a pretty good job of not capturing the mom and pops, but we also think that this does a pretty good job of capturing those that have enough scale and velocity that they truly are most likely preventing young families from being able to purchase homes.
And Senator, you're further one more query.
Yeah, absolutely.
The enforcement factor, was that on 179 or 79?
That begins on, there's a couple different enforcement factors, but the civil action starts on line 79, and the changes to the tax provisions, the tax credits begin on line 130, and then the actual tax return portion begins on line 159.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Recognize the Senator from the 55th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will this gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I, too, have a similar question about the number that you have had. What, if any, challenge would we have if we took that number to 250 rather than the number of 500? How many would that impact currently, if at all? And what impact would that do if we did 250, or has that been a thought?
Senator, I would have two concerns with going any lower, although I appreciate the sentiment. My first concern is getting it passed into law and getting it across on the other side of the building. If the House's starting point is 2,000 and we come in with a bill that's 250, I think that may be a little too narrow. I think you're likely as well, Senator, to capture more of your local landowners as opposed to some of these larger institutional investors or your hedge funds and private equity groups as well. So that would be my concern with going more narrow, but I would ask you to pass this bill as it stands now, because I think this is the bill that probably has the best chance of passing in the House as well.
Well, the gentleman further yield, approximately how many people would be captured at this 500 number if we have the current trajectory of Wall Street buying up homes?
We really don't have great data on that. I may be able to gather that for you while other senators speak to the bill. I think you're talking about less than 100. I know that once you get up over 2,000, you're talking about 15 or so. And so this would be a little bit wider of a net, but not quite as narrow of a net that would only capture the Blackstones of the world. It would be a little bit more broad than that.
You're very kind. Did I hear you say that there was an executive order for 100 units?
So yes, the president has issued an executive order, and the executive order that he has is with 100 units. And I'm not exactly sure, to be honest with you, kind of the execution of that executive order and how it would be carried out. I did read it, though, enough to see that it was his number was 100 units.
Thank you for this bill. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator.
You have a couple more questions, Senator. Recognize Senator from the 26th.
Senator Yield.
I do.
Senator, we talk about money. Usually conglomerates are the ones that put financing together for 500 units, period of single-family housing. We in Georgia need some more single-family dwellings now. Where do we find the management or the money to build them?
So, Senator, there's nothing in this bill that would prevent anyone from building a new home.
Yeah, up to 500.
No, Senator. If it's a new home, it is exempted from this bill. What this bill is looking to capture is the purchase of existing housing inventory. So if you had if Blackstone wanted to come to Georgia and build 10,000 new housing units and turn every single one of them into a rental home, that would not be prevented under this bill. That would be allowed under this bill. And I would point you, Senator, just so you can read it for yourself, beginning on lines 56. I'm sorry. Beginning on line 51, all the way to line 53.
Well, you know, Senator, I kind of trust you because you kind of a financial wizard. We talk about things and making money all the time. But we are talking about real money, not little money, but real money. And, you know, to build 500 single-family dwellings, now you're talking about if you have dwellings that are dilapidated and you find another company to come in to redo them and buy those, how would this bill affect them when you start talking about tax credits for low-income families?
Yeah, so if the scenario was that somebody wanted to purchase 500 existing dilapidated units and turn those into rentals, that would not be allowed under this bill. If they wanted to do that as a flip, that would be allowed under this bill.
You messing with my money.
Bring it on, Senator from the 35th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Senator Yield.
I do.
Is it true that this topic has a great interest throughout the country?
I believe that is true, Senator, yes.
Does the senator further yield?
I do.
Is it true that the senator from the 35th has been very critical of our current administration?
I believe that's an understatement, Senator.
Yeah. Would the senator further yield, actually?
Yes.
Would the senator appreciate the fact that a good bill is a good bill, no matter where it came from, even if the idea came from both sides of the aisle and the President of the United States has implemented it? It's okay to appreciate a good bill no matter what side of the aisle it comes from.
I appreciate your fair-minded look at this bill, Senator.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
You have no questions.
I yield the well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to a previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Senator from the 55th, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, is it not true that when I go to the courthouse steps to bid for a house that's valued at $300,000, that corporations can pay $310,000, take it out from under my feet, when I would ordinarily buy that house for $200 and some odd dollars? Is it not true that institutional investors are paying more than what is marketably or reasonable and commercial in the market?
Senator knows what he speaks, I guess.
And this bill would address those corporations who overpay for product when the average person trying to just make
You You can just vote yes, Senator.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Is there objection to the main question be it ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 8th, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that down on the farm we say that pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered?
You would know it better than anybody, Senator.
Isn't it true, Mr. President, we fixing to slaughter some hogs with this bill?
Senator, if we're going to do anything with farm animals, we're going to put you in charge of it. Don't worry. So. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 3. This bill, having received a requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Had 3 no votes there, huh? Secretary read Senate Bill 468.
Senate Bill 468 by Senators Cowsert of the 46th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 1 of Title 42 of the OCGA relating to Sexual Offender Risk Review Board so as to increase reporting requirements of sexual offenders, to allow for increased monitoring of homeless sexual offenders, to require sexual offenders to report international travel, to provide for placement of sexual offenders in risk assessment classifications when convicted of specific crimes, to amend Code Section 8-3-11 of the OCGA relating to creation of stable housing accountability programs, application process, minimum standards, approval criteria, and funding so as to require stable housing accountability programs, to report program applicants who are sexual offenders, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers, Chairman.
Recognize Senator from the 40. Hold on 1 second, Senator.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 468, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 1 of Title 42 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to Sexual Offender Risk Review Board so as to increase reporting requirements of sexual offenders, to allow for increased monitoring of homeless sexual offenders, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Mr. President, Senator Cowsert of the 46th offers the following amendment. Amendment 1, amend the Senate Committee on Public Safety substitute on Senate Bill 468 by replacing line 40 with the following. Sleeps within 72 hours after the sexual offender's release from prison, county jail, or by striking and at the end of line 141 by replacing line 143 with the following. Section 16-6-22.1 and any second or subsequent conviction of an offense listed in subparagraph A of this paragraph. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Now I recognize the Senator from 46.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this is a bill aimed at making certain that homeless sexual offenders can be tracked and monitored to be kept away from our children. Currently, if you're a sexual offender, you have to register, obviously with your probation or parole officer, but also with the sheriff in the county in which you live, so that it can be guaranteed that you stay more than 1,000 feet away from a child care facility, from a church, from a school, or other locations where minors congregate. The idea is to protect our children from known convicted sexual offenders. What we found as our homeless population has grown is a number of them are sexual offenders. All sexual offenders, when they're released from jail, have to report on the registry. They have to report to the sheriff in the county that they choose to live in. And the problem with these people is they are bouncing around and we can't follow them when we can't protect our children unless we know where they are. So it increases reporting requirements for homeless people to, within 36 hours of changing their sleeping location or wherever their encampment is or wherever shelter they're staying in, they have to report that to the sheriff. If they fail to do it, it allows their probation officer or parole officer to implement a ankle monitor, essentially a location locator, so we can track them and make sure that they're not in a position to harm our children. There's a brief amendment that I have made that makes two small changes to the bill. This is at the request of the Department of Community Supervision. They pointed out that the original version that came out of committee said you had to report within 36 hours of being released from jail or prison. And they pointed out that sometimes the paperwork takes longer than this, and it's fair to give them several days to establish their residence and let the sheriff know upon release from jail or prison. After that, any subsequent moves, they've got to notify the sheriff within 36 hours. The other thing it does is it changes a category of a dangerous sexual predator. It adds a person that has a second or subsequent conviction of a series of offenses that involve child molestation, incest, inciting a child for indecent purposes, or sexual exploitation of children. If you have multiple convictions for those type of offenses, then you are a dangerous sexual predator. You have a pattern of doing it, and we need to make sure that we can track you, keep you away from our children. So it's fairly limited in scope. It's to address a very finite problem. We just do have a lot of mentally ill people that are homeless, and a good number of them are also sexual offenders. It's to protect our children from that. So I would ask for your favorable consideration, but glad to answer any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you. I yield the well.
We do have an amendment here. Secretary, read the amendment. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of Amendment 1 authored by Senator from the 46. Is there objection? There's no objection. All those in favor of adoption of Amendment 1, it is adopted. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute is as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the Board of Committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The Board of Committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the question to being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The main question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Moving on, Senate Bill 527. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 527 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-16-1 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to qualification requirements for sheriff and exemptions so as to require that candidates for the office of sheriff are certified peace officers at the time of qualifying as a candidate, to provide for related matters, to appeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I come before you today with something that we've passed out of here before that's somewhat important. I remember I graduated from the police academy a long, long time ago when my hair was more blonde than white and my eyes were more blue than gray. And I graduated after this long academy class where I was beat up, bruised. On the very first day, I was given 2 very large ring binder notebooks, each one about 10 inches thick, full of all the laws I would need to know, the rules and regulations I would need to know, and just basically overwhelmed the first week of this, thinking I'd maybe stepped into the wrong profession. But as I studied, as I worked hard and got through, I successfully graduated from the police academy a lot better man than I was when I started. And after graduating, after being sworn in, I went to work. A couple weeks after that, I received a large envelope in the mail, and inside that envelope was a certificate of graduation, and paperclipped to the top of that certificate was my post-certification, my peace officer's license. And if you've never seen one, it's a small license, no bigger than the size of a driver's license, has your name on it, and mine was signed by Max Cleland, the Secretary of State, which certified me as a peace officer here in Georgia. And what it meant was I could take that license and I could go and work at any law enforcement agency in the state of Georgia if they chose to hire me. That license belonged to me. It did not belong to the Muskogee County Sheriff's Office. I was only a certified peace officer who was employed by the Muskogee County Sheriff's Office. And I took a tremendous amount of pride in that. And it was necessary for me to do my job, because everything I had learned in the police academy immediately took effect the day I took that oath and went out and started serving and protecting the citizens of Muskogee County. And all this legislation does, once again, as we've passed it here before, is it requires anybody that wants to run for sheriff in the state of Georgia to have that license, so that when they walk in there day one, they have the skills, the understanding, and the knowledge that they have exercised in a classroom to understand what their job is, what their job is not, and to be able to be a law enforcement officer. And then once they get elected, then they'll go to sheriff's school, where they're taught all those other things that the CEO of a sheriff's agency needs to know, a sheriff's office needs to know. And so we passed that out last year and possibly the year before, and each time it gets over to the House, there's some confusion. And they add other things in. They said, yes, you have to have a post-certification to run for sheriff unless you're a first responder. Well, I'm a first responder. The senator from the 56th is a first responder. We both are post-certified, or have been. But his certification is different than mine. If he wants to become an arson investigator, a peace officer, then he goes to the academy I went to. And if I want to work at an airport, so let's say, and I want to be a firefighter at that airport, which they are dual certified, then I have to go to the academy he went to, and I have to graduate from there. These aren't interchangeable. So while them putting peace officer or first responder in there sounds good, it's not. It says honorably discharged or retired from military. That's really good. But what they teach you in the military, whether you're an MP or any other skill set, is not the same thing that I learned in the police academy. An MP in the Army, an MP in the Marines, they are different than a peace officer in the state of Georgia. Too many times when we run short of personnel, people go, well, hey, just go recruit soldiers, Marines, sailors, recruit them into law enforcement. They still have to go through the police academy and become post-certified because the laws of Georgia are unique to Georgia. Policing in Georgia is unique to Georgia. If somebody wants to be the sheriff in one of our 159 counties, they need to be a post-certified peace officer in Georgia. And I'm proud to say that POST, Peace Officer Standards Training Council, regulates all law enforcement officers who carry that license here in Georgia. And should a law enforcement officer violate a law or rule, POST can pull that license away. All 50 states in the United States of America have POST councils. The one POST council that decertifies more officers every year who don't follow the rules is the Georgia Peace Officer Standards Training Council. They hold us to the highest standard in the United States of America. And I'm proud of that. But it's that important that the CEO of the primary law enforcement agency in 159 counties be held to the same standard as the deputy sheriff who graduated from the academy in the 1980s and had a license signed by Max Cleland has to follow. Therefore, it's really simple. All this legislation says, if you want to run for sheriff in Georgia and none of our rules prohibit you from doing it, you can do it if you're a post-certified peace officer in the state of Georgia. And I'll yield for any questions, Mr. President.
Bringing out the senator from the 10th.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Yale?
Absolutely.
Senator, what's required to be able to attend and become a peace officer?
To attend the police academy?
Yes.
Yes, sir. You can either go as being sponsored by an agency or any individual can go on their own.
So if an individual who spent 30 years in the military, as an example, and decides they want to become a sheriff, can that person then send themselves to the police academy to get certified?
Yes, sir, they can. They can go, and I'll give you an example in Muskogee County where myself and the senator from the 15th share that constituent group. They would go to the police academy there on Macon Road. They would fill out the applications required. Those applications would go to post council to ensure that they are qualified to attend the academy, and then they would be able to go through the academy and graduate. If it is someone who comes in from out of state and say they had been post-certified in another state, they would look at their experience, their qualifications, and sometimes they could be given an abbreviated police academy so that they wouldn't have to duplicate the training they received in another state. If it's a military law enforcement officer who had gone through an academy in whatever base they were at, that would also be taken into consideration. But yes, they could themselves enter the academy like you would any other university or school.
Senator Yale?
Yes, sir.
And while they're attending the police academy, are they being paid?
If they are sponsored by an agency, yes, they are.
But if they're not sponsored by an agency?
No, sir, they're not. They would be a student sitting in the academy with other individuals going through the same class, some sponsored by law enforcement agencies and others not.
Senator Further Yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, aren't we creating another obstacle, another hurdle for another agency? And some agencies may have reciprocity, particularly federal agencies. Aren't we creating another hurdle for them to simply become and to run for the office of being a sheriff in this state?
No, sir. I don't see it as creating a hurdle. What I see it is holding a high standard. I think without a doubt the debates and the discussions we've had over these past 8 years have revolved around the profession of law enforcement. When we first came in here, this opening session, a lot of the chatter, debate, and discussion was about the training of federal law enforcement agencies. And so if that is an important part of being a law enforcement officer, then I think the worst thing we can do is lower the standard of that training by allowing somebody to come in. And when you speak of federal agencies and others, if an FBI agent who retires here in the state of Georgia, if he or she wants to become a sheriff or wants to become a law enforcement officer here in the state of Georgia, their packet is sent to Post. Post evaluates all their training that they have. They look at what is applicable in Georgia, and they could be granted the ability to take an abbreviated police academy. And at that time, when they graduated, they would be a post-certified peace officer in Georgia, and they would be qualified not only to run for sheriff, but they would be qualified to work for any law enforcement agency in the state of Georgia who would be willing to hire them, state, county, or municipal.
Senator Further Yield?
I do.
Senator, isn't it, and I'm just trying to understand.
No, I understand.
The
I respect
legislation,
that.
because I've been very supportive of peace officers, as you well know.
Yes, sir, you have.
But are we doing this for other positions and high offices in state government, as an example, putting this hurdle out here that you must complete this course to get this assignment before you could, for example, run for lieutenant governor?
I don't know. I don't know to speak to that. I know to practice as a nurse in other states and to transfer your certification into Georgia, there's some requirements. I know to be an attorney, you have to be licensed. So I know there's many professions that require a license, and if you don't have the license walking in the door, then you're not qualified to do it, and they do offer abbreviated training in all of those areas. I know for some of our friends who carry law licenses, for them to practice in other states, they have to be recognized by the bars of those other states. But what we're talking about is we're talking about a profession where men and women stand before an official and raise their right hand and take an oath and understand that myself, the senator from the 51st, and the senator from the 54th have taken an oath that gives us the authority to not only impede someone's liberty, but in certain circumstances to use a level of force that could take another human being's life. And for that, I don't think requiring someone to stand in front of a class and sit in front of an instructor and take a class to become the CEO, the man or woman who manages at times hundreds of men and women who have taken that oath and who have that authority. I don't see this as an obstacle at all. If anything, I think it should be a requirement that is recognized and supported by everyone.
Senator, I would respectfully disagree, because there are a lot of military that have become police officers and gotten unique certification while they've been in the service. Yet what you're saying to them is that time that you spent, however many years, 25, 30 in the military, doesn't qualify you to simply be a sheriff in one of our counties. So I respectfully disagree with you.
Senator, I respectfully appreciate your difference of opinion. I have worked with many men and women who came out of law enforcement, who came out of the military into law enforcement, and some who came straight out of college into law enforcement. And I can tell you that it is really tough to retrain a military mindset where most battles are fought on foreign soil because of posse comitatus and other things, to get them to understand the Constitution of the United States as it differs from the Military Code of Justice and the rules and regulations within the military. I have a tremendous amount of respect. I have a picture hanging on my wall of my uncle who died fighting for this country. But I will tell you this, without the police academy that explains the rights of every soul here in the state of Georgia and our requirements to protect everybody, it is much, much different from those in the military. We have had some very successful men and women come out of the military and transition into law enforcement, but it is very, very different. But I do appreciate that. And if there are no other questions?
You do have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Recognize the senator from 56.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Senator Yield.
I do yield.
Senator, there's been some questions about needing some education prior to holding elected office. Isn't it true that a solicitor or a district attorney or even the attorney general of this state would have to have a law degree in order to run for that position and obtain it?
I believe that is true.
So isn't it true that we would want to make sure that anybody who runs for offices has basic qualifications? In this case, the ability to take someone's freedom away should have that highest bar.
I think you stated exactly right. Based on the responsibilities of that job, where a district attorney has the ability to prosecute and take freedom from individuals, and a solicitor having the same authority at some level, and then we're talking about municipal police officers, deputy sheriffs, GBI agents, DNR, Department of Corrections. When individuals are responsible for the freedom and possibly the use of force that could cause the end of a life, I think this is a small standard to set, but I do think it's absolutely necessary.
Thank you, Senator. Excellent bill.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, one more question, Senator. Recognize the senator from the 55th.
Thank you for the sentiment. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this fine legislation. I'm a little concerned, however, how long is the training to get this certification?
It depends on the person's previous experience. As I said before, if someone came out of the military and they wanted to become a post-certified officer, they would bring their packet, all their experience would be taken into consideration, and they could go through an abbreviated police academy. The same thing if a law enforcement officer outside of the state of Georgia, Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, New York, California, if they came into Georgia, they would have to present their packet of training, their packet of experience. That would be evaluated by POST, the Peace Officer Standards Training Council, and then it would be determined if they could take an abbreviated academy. Same thing with the FBI. If I came out with no experience whatsoever and wanted to go to the academy, I believe right now the academy is around 12 weeks.
12 weeks? Will the gentleman further yield? Is it not true that there are occasions when there's a special election, and if I'm a very great candidate and the citizens of that particular county might think I'm a great candidate because I have gold stars, I'm a gold, some Purple Heart, I fought for my country, and is it not true that special election where the citizens may want me to be that person, but if there's a special election, my sheriff dies, for example, and they call a special election, you may deny the citizens of that county the best candidate simply because they haven't had time to even go get training because that person was not even thinking about being a sheriff until that sheriff office came open. Is it not true?
No, sir, it's not true. What is true is, and again, there's a picture hanging on my wall at the house, and as much as I know about my great uncle Alto Cobb, who gave his life in France, I do not believe that my uncle had the experience at that time to be a law enforcement officer. These are two very different things. We can talk about Purple Hearts, we can talk about stars and all these other things. The debate we've been having in this chamber for the past 8 years is we want the absolute best men and women in law enforcement on our streets, especially those that are our sheriffs, those that are our chiefs, those that are our directors and commissioners, those that are our colonels who are responsible for managing those men and women who carry as much authority as they do. This would be the same thing if there were a special election and somebody knew somebody that justice was their primary focus, that they understood law back, forth, left to right, and that special election was for district attorney, and that person did not carry a law degree, then that person is not qualified to run for that office, special election or not.
With all due respect, counsel, if there's an office, if there's a special election for district attorney, the current law gives 6 months to show that I am qualified, but now you're giving me no opportunity to show that I have the qualifications to be the DA, because the current law, as I understand it, gave me 6 months to prove that the people made a great choice in electing me, even though I was kicking my heels up and I was retired. But in the campaigning process, is it not true? Is it not true? Is it not true?
I appreciate both of the senators.
Is it not true that the people of my particular county may think that I'm the best candidate, and that in the electoral process, my qualifications will come out, and the citizens of that county are the ultimate arbiters of who is qualified and who is not?
Well, Senator, I like the fact that you think that if you were going to be the district attorney without a law degree, that you could get that law degree in 6 months. But in this case, if you are not qualified to be a deputy sheriff, then, sir, you are not qualified to be a sheriff. If you do not have Peace Officer Standard and Training Council, if you do not carry a license in your pocket that says you are. It's just plainly that clear. But I do appreciate the question.
Thank you, counsel.
Thank you. Yes, sir. I'll do one more.
You have one more question, Senator. Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I do.
Senator, is it not true that if people think that the senator from the 55th would be a good candidate for sheriff, is that not why we need this bill?
Senator, rarely do things make me nervous and make cold sweat run down my spine. But if there's a few people in this Senate that if they ever threw their name in for sheriff, I'm afraid I would have to run for the state Senate in the state of Alabama. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
All right. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Senator from the 5th, what purpose do you rise?
For business outside the Capitol.
Okay, Senator. Without objection, the senator from the 7th is excused. Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 3, and this bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Senator from the 33rd, for what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, sir.
State your inquiry.
Would somebody remind the rookie senators from the 18th, 19th, and 35th that when the president walks into the chamber that they're supposed to come to attention and wait until you get up to the podium?
I didn't know that, Senator. But I appreciate you pointing that out to him, but I've never known any of y'all to do that, so, but. Senator from the 22nd, for what purpose do you rise?
Yes, ask for unanimous consent, Mr. President, excuse the senator from the 7th.
She's been excused 3 times now, Senator, but thank you. All right, here we go. Moving on. Secretary reads SB 471.
Senate Bill 471 by Senators Dolezal of the 27th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing that no local board of education, local school superintendent, or school administrator, teacher, or other school personnel shall make or enforce any rule that requires a student to wear a face mask or face covering while present on school property unless such rule provides that a parent or guardian of such student may elect for his or her child to be exempt from such rule, approved March 29th, 2022, so as to eliminate the automatic repeal provision, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman of the 4th District, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 27th.
Mr. President, the hour is late. I'll try to be quick. Back during COVID, Governor Kemp issued an executive order stating that if a locality wanted to have a mask mandate in their school, they could do so as long as parents had the ability to opt their child out of it. We codified that into law 4 years ago with a 5-year sunset. This bill just removes the sunset, so it allows Georgia law to continue on as it's been in law for 4 years, but effectively in action since really the summer of 2020. Mr. President, if there's no questions, I'd be happy to yield the well.
There are no questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. All right, last one for the day, SB 497. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 497 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 16 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to elementary and secondary school students so as to require written notification to a parent when a student receives certain non-instructional services from certain school employees, to provide for expectations, to provide for education records of non-instructional services, to revise the Parent's Bill of Rights to provide for such written notification, to require local education agencies to adopt policies, rules, or regulations, to provide for definitions, to provide for instruction, to provide for an effective date, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman of the 4th District, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate colleagues, I bring Senate Bill 497 before you today. It's the Parents' Bill of Rights. What this bill does, it ensures that parents are notified when their minor child seeks non-instructional medical, nursing, or therapeutic counseling services. Therapeutic services are defined as those focused on primarily on mental health or emotional health and not academics. This bill affirms that parents have the right to direct the upbringing and the education of their children. It is important that information relating to their child should not be withheld from their parents. It creates a pathway to appeal to the local school board if a principal or a local superintendent denies the parent's request for information on their child or does not respond within 30 days. The bill also requires schools to document each time an employee provides non-instructional services to a student, and that if it becomes a part of their permanent record. It requires written notification to the student's parents within 48 hours. It also, employees acting in good faith are not required to report or notify the parents if there's expected to be child abuse or if there's self-harm to the child by notifying the parents. When notification is not provided to the parents, it must be provided to the principal within 12 hours. With that, Mr. President, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or I'll yield to well.
You have one question, Senator. Recognize Senator from 38.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield?
Yes.
When you speak about therapeutic services, that would include like counseling. So what about students who are seeking counseling or confiding in a counselor for things that are not, saying that they're threatened at home or going through any abuse, but what about the protection of that student to be able to confide in a counselor? Would that be expected to be reported home regardless of the fact that that is a confidential conversation that they're having with a counselor?
Right, yeah, it would be required if they didn't believe the child was in immediate harm or self-danger, if there was suspected child abuse. So there is leniency there for the administration to make that judgment.
Okay, thank you.
Recognize Senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Did we ever resolve the issue of the privacy HIPAA compliance relating to going to a school principal?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, there is a section in the bill that states that if there's any of the laws are conflicting with federal law, that it would, the federal law would supersede.
You have no further questions, Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Senator from 26, I couldn't hear you back there. What did you say? You ready to head to Macon? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, yeas are 34 and the nays are 18. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Recognize the majority leader for motion.
I hear that. Mr. President, I move the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Wednesday, March 4th.
Majority leader has moved. Secretary, read the announcements.
The Rules Committee will meet upon adjournment in room 450 of the Capitol. Mr. President, that completes the order.
All right, any other announcements? Rules upon adjournment. Majority leader has moved that we stand adjourned until tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it. Have a wonderful day, everyone. See you tomorrow.